We are now live on. Oh, what do you got going on in the background back there?
What do we got?
What is that? Oh, never mind. That's just all the likes coming in on the Instagram live. I'm just kidding. Welcome to another episode of the X Factor with Xavier Scruggs. We are live on Instagram. We are live on Facebook. We are live on YouTube and Twitter and Twitch. Everywhere else that there's a live streaming service, we're here. And we just like to dive in on the game of baseball, the mental side, life, what's going on, COVID-19, all kinds of crazy stuff happening in America, around the world. But we're here every Tuesday, 1 o'clock Eastern, sitting down, chatting. The sun is shining in the background. The hat fits on backwards. We've got air conditioning. Life's
Oh, that's
good.
that's huge. Air conditioning is huge.
Life is good. So today on the show, we're going to talk about what are we talking about?
We're talking about when circumstances change, right? Wasn't that
And,
one of them?
one of them, but I'm saying, I know my topic. What's your topic?
Oh, for me, it's like there's not one way. There's not one path. That's something I definitely want to touch on today because a lot of young guys they're not sure. Do I need to go D1? Do I need to go junior college? How do I get opportunity to get seen? Maybe winter ball, summer leagues, all this stuff. So that's kind of what I want to touch on today.
Well, that's cool. So let's break into it. It's a Tuesday. Baseball's back in action. Major League Baseball. I was looking at the standings, and on Instagram, I was looking at the standings on a post, and it said that since they changed the format for Major League Baseball playoffs this year, top two teams plus two wild cards, whatever. So I was looking at the standings, and you've got the Yankees at 7-1. You've got Twins at 7-2. And then you got the Marlins coming in. That's an old club for you. Marlins coming in at second place in the NL East at a whopping 2-1. So they're hanging in. They're hanging in there. And I know McCutchen was pissed because they didn't test positive for COVID, but the Marlins did, and it's kind of screwing up their schedule as well. They haven't been able to play. So,
Right.
but that just ties right into kind of what we're talking about today. At least my topic, changing circumstances. You can't prepare for it.
Absolutely.
But you got to react to it. And I mean, I guess let's just jump right into it since we're just kind of rolling on an intro, like
Yeah.
changing circumstances, like how you react to the situation. You can either complain about it or you can just adjust. Right. So what kind of adjustments have you made going into this summer? You started out as a free agent, working out, staying in shape. COVID comes. Now all of a sudden you're trapped at the house, can't work out and do the things that you want to do. You got to do stuff on your own. Rupture your Achilles. Now you're out. Couldn't even come to the Swish baseball experience. Wanted to have you there. Wanted to have your pretty face there. Couldn't have you there. Now all of a sudden you're really locked inside. You can't move around. Trying to raise a couple kids. Got a younger kid that can't even walk yet, so you got to carry him around. Like, how have you adjusted? Changing circumstances. What have you done to adjust to the changing circumstances?
Yeah, it hasn't been easy, and I'm sure that's the same for everybody. Hold on, I want to touch on an IG couple comments. Kenny Smith, you were great on ESPN. Hey,
Heck
thank you,
yeah.
my man. Appreciate you watching.
That's what's up. 4
But
a.m.,
kind of
right?
going into that kind of goes into what I'm talking about. It's like you never know what the circumstances are going to be. Obviously, COVID hit. You got injuries.
Mm-hmm.
So much goes into an athlete's lifestyle, especially high school, college, minor league,
Mm-hmm.
professional. And you have to learn to deal with, and we say it all the time, make adjustments, right? So actually opportunity for me to, this guy's mentioned it, jump on ESPN,
Mm-hmm.
even though I'm not playing this season. There's always opportunities to be doing something, especially when things don't go your way. You have to
Mm-hmm.
find a way to continue to separate yourself. You have to find a way to make adjustments. And for me personally, especially when COVID first hit, it was like, hey, I know people are not going to the gym now. I got to find a way to stay strong, right? I got to find a
Mm-hmm.
way to keep working out, whether that be at home, whether that be running on a hill, whether that be outside doing some type of physical activity. And that's what I was happy to see a lot of prospect dugout. kids, a lot of guys that follow, I saw them doing their home workouts, driveway drills with Swisher.
Mm-hmm.
Those things are really important. I think that's how you kind of make adjustments to those circumstances you can't control, right? There's always going to be circumstances that we can't control. And like you mentioned a little earlier, it's like you can't really sit there and pout about it because other people are finding ways to get
Right.
around that.
That's it,
Other
man.
people are finding ways to make themselves better. So I think obviously there's always going to be a little period where we're disappointed that something doesn't go our way.
Mm-hmm.
But once we kind of get over that and try to get over that as soon as possible, then we move on to being creative, finding ways. Same thing goes for like at bats. The longer you stay in a slump, the longer it tends to hurt your season, right? If you're
Mm-hmm.
able to make the adjustment as quick as possible within pitch to pitch, at bat, make it
Mm-hmm.
quick. Like the quicker we do that, the better we are off and making
Right.
adjustments and learning about our growth, learning about ourselves. So we make it better for ourselves. But yeah, that's to answer your question, you have to learn to be creative and make decisions for yourself that, hey, I know where I see myself down the line. How am I going to get there now? One thing didn't go my way. Let me check something else off the
Mm-hmm.
box. Let me figure out another way.
So tell me a little bit about how you've adjusted business wise. What are some things that you've done differently? I know that you're, obviously you were still training to get back into professional baseball. You're, as someone commented on Instagram, you're working with ESPN, commentating some play-by-play in the morning for KBO. What is that, like 4 a.m. that you're doing that?
So sometimes it is 4 a.m. So yeah, but
So just tell me.
luckily this morning it was late, 6:30.
Oh, there you go. Isn't it funny how that's kind of like sleeping in now, like 6:30, 7 o'clock is like sleeping in, like what the heck?
Yeah,
Anyway,
it's weird.
so tell me just a little bit about how you've adjusted your work, like extraordinary athletes. What kind of has changed? I know you've probably had, you before COVID hit and before injury, you probably had plans to do all kinds of things, but what are some of the adjustments that you've made based on the changing circumstances?
Yeah, definitely doing whatever I can from home now. Obviously, I had a camp scheduled, to actually multiple camps. We call it an extraordinary skills challenge that was going to be done in San Diego. That
Mm-hmm.
might be thrown off now. Dates are going to be changed around. So for me, I had to get extraordinary athletes virtual going. I had to get an opportunity for kids to come in and learn about a lot of the skills that we're talking about now and be able to soak in as much information that I can be able to provide for them, as well as players that I've played with, coaches I've played with, strength and conditioning coaches. So just be able to provide that for a lot of young players. And for me, it was fun to do that. It was fun
Mm-hmm.
to come home, make these worksheets, and try to figure out, okay, what works best for young athletes. And then also being able to write blogs and
Mm-hmm.
just give a little bit of my 2 cents, just and be able to also create some videos at home, whether that be workout videos, whether that just be motivational Mondays, something, whether that be a live, whether that be podcast. Like those are the things I'd love to
Mm-hmm.
do and to be able to provide, and things I wasn't really prepared to do when
Right.
I didn't know if I was playing or not. So that's something that I had to make an adjustment with, and something I'm glad that I had the opportunity to do with extraordinary athletes. And that kind of brought us together as well,
Right.
like
For
an
sure.
opportunity to create content and be able to provide for a lot of athletes on Prospect Dugout's platform. So I'm happy that that's something that we got into doing. I'm interested to know, you obviously, you had to get some things going live, especially with Swisher, with me. How did you have to make that adjustment as well? Because Prospect Dugout is a huge platform. So
Yeah,
I'm
man.
interested to know, like, hey, and then you were still able to put on a camp. So it's cool to see how you've been able to navigate that too.
Yeah, man, it's definitely been tough navigating. I think the one thing that I've learned very well over my life is just the ability, or is just the fact that everything is going to happen whether you want it to happen or you don't want it to happen. So what I mean by that is you're doing something, something's going to happen. Right? There's never going to be an instance where everything goes as planned. There's never going to be an instance where there's not a hiccup, a hang up, something messes up, whatever that may be. And so I think just with the way that I look at things, you can sit there and dwell on the issue that pops up, or you can sit back and say, you know what? I'm not the only one that's struggling with this. I look at what's going on around the world with COVID. it's not just me struggling with it. It's not just you. It's not just a handful of select people. It's literally global, right? Okay, so that's the first thing that I look at. First thing I look at is everybody's dealing with. Okay, if everybody's dealing with it, then I need to adjust from there. I can't complain about it because everybody has to deal with it. We know that moving forward, there's going to be an adjustment. So for me, my mindset is, what is that adjustment going to be? I've got to think ahead of the game. I can't react. It's when you react is where you're going to find the trouble, right? You have to think, you have to anticipate, you have to have educated guesses, right? You can't just go up to the plate and say, okay, wow, that was a fast fastball, or wow, that slider's nasty. You can't sit in the on deck circle and say, oh, he just diced him up. Like, you're not prepared, right? What if you're exactly, what if you're on deck, dude gets a base hit and you're like, oh yeah, I got runners first and second, let's go. And then all of a sudden you're walking up to the plate and you see the opposing coach walking out to the mound for a pitching change. It's a change in circumstance, right? It's not what you planned for. So now you got to walk back to the on deck circle and you've got 8 pitches, literally a minute and a half to sit there and say, okay, what's going on? You can't rely on that minute and a half and perform at an elite level. As a former Major League Baseball player, if you go into the on deck, well, here's the first reason why I know none of this is true, because you made it to the big leagues, right? So you can't be in the on deck circle and then be surprised when a pitcher comes in the game. You have to be prepared. The only way you're going to be surprised and not have an idea of what's going on is if it's his Major League debut, right? Limited video, limited, talk from other guys. Maybe somebody in the minor leagues played with him or against him and you got a little bit of info there. But if you're not prepared before you step into the batter's box, if you're not prepared before first pitch, if you're not prepared before you get to BP that day, you're not ready, because you never know what's going to happen. What happens when you go up there and all of a sudden there's a rain delay in the 3rd inning and now you've been pitching for 3 innings and now you got to be, there's always something that's going to happen. And you have to figure out a way. This is what I do. You can dwell on it for like 3 seconds because it happened and you got to take it in. You got to take in all the information, figure out what happened. But then you got to move on to action. You got to move on to, what am I going to do now? So the response with businesses and takeout orders, dining in at 50% capacity, all these different these things that have taken place, a change in circumstances due to COVID, it's not hurting. I mean, it is hurting certain businesses. It's hurting businesses that aren't adapting and making those changes. A lot of businesses aren't even affected by it because, hey, we're just going to keep business as usual, make the adjustments. The people still want to pay for the Chick-fil-A. They still want to come through the drive-through. So let's enhance that experience. So I think for me, how I handle the change in circumstance is not getting too caught up on the way that I wanted it to go. I got to have an idea of what my goal is, but you never know. Like, if you're going a step-by-step process and you're focused on step 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way through 10, like, I don't know what step 8's going to be until I do step 1 through 7. So I can't sit here and try to plan step 8. I can be prepared. I can say, you know what, this is, I get through first, step 1 through 5, step 6 is probably going to be like this. So I prepare myself. So I know that I've got to focus on step 1. I got to focus on step 2 all the way through and make that the best possible situation for me, the best possible circumstance. But I think for me, the way that I handle change in circumstances is reevaluate the situation and see what I can do to edit my behavior to still achieve and reach the goal that I've set out for.
No, and I think that's a great point. Is you said it, and I think a lot of people need to hear is like reevaluate. Come to a new conclusion, come to a new opportunity. You talked about a rain delay, and I feel like that throws a lot of people off, of course. But it's like the game has to go on at some point, so you still got to be ready to go back out there and do what you need to do. An error happens, you still got to be ready for the next play. You strike out 1 or 2 times, there might be an opportunity for you to help your team in the 3rd or 4th at bat. So those things, like you said, you can't dwell on them too much, and you just got to be ready to make adjustments, be ready for to be prepared for whatever's next. And I think that's something you mentioned too, is just being prepared as possible. That's going to give you an edge on everybody. You have some kids in here talking about weightlifting programs and stuff like that. It's like, hey, be prepared for your position. What is your position? How does your position weight lift? How does your position condition?
Right.
Find out those things and be prepared for, if you play multiple positions, be prepared for, multiple. Same thing with taking ground balls, fly balls, base running. Like, be prepared for every aspect of the game, and that puts you in such a better position.
Dude, like, man, I had something, it just totally slipped me, but I want to get into not every path, or every path is different. Not every path is the same. We're here every Tuesday. This is just a normal Tuesday for us. Tuesday, 1:00 Eastern, with my man Xavier Scruggs. We're here live on Instagram. We're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. We're hanging out. We got a bunch of people watching. I don't know what they're doing, but they're definitely watching us. We got a lot of viewers on Facebook right now. Hi, everybody that's on Facebook. We appreciate you. We thank you for taking the time out of your day to come and spend with us. We just talked about change in circumstances. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. One thing that I love the most is when we're getting ready for baseball games, or it's a baseball game the next day or whatever, especially tournament ball, is, ooh, it looks like it might rain. Ooh, it's supposed to rain. You know what my
Mhm.
response is? What if it doesn't rain? You know what you're going to do if it rains? You're going to stop. You're not going to do anything. But what if it doesn't rain and you
Right,
spend the whole
right.
previous day and the whole morning looking at the weather and saying, ooh, the front's coming in. Ooh, I think we might have a window here. Like, you're putting all that focus and that attention, that energy on something that does not matter. And so I think that is an important thing when the circumstances are changing, or when the circumstances are up in the air, that you have to remain focused on what the task is at hand. If you got a game tomorrow at 7 p.m. or you got a game tomorrow at 10 a.m. and the forecast looks like it's going to rain, well, guess what? What happens if it doesn't rain? Your goal is
Right,
to
right.
perform well in the game. Your goal is not to be a weatherman, but they're right 50% of the time anyway. So anyway, that was a thought that I had. That's one thing that I don't like hearing from amateur players, and especially parents too, is, oh, the rain, the weather. Like, dude, if it rains, man, and let the
Yeah.
tournament figure out when you're going to play. But
That even goes on in the major leagues. Like, players are like, even
what?
even in the major leagues, when you have ESPN games, you're gonna wait as long as
As long
possible.
as possible.
But guys are still like, man, what if it's, what if we get rained out, blah blah, this and that. And it's like, we're gonna be sitting here at least for 5 hours to find out. So it doesn't
Oh.
matter.
What was your favorite rain delay card game? You play cards?
Yeah, I love spades.
Okay.
Um,
You ever play casino?
I like casino a lot
Okay,
too.
look at
Yeah,
you. Okay.
yeah.
It's a good one. It's aggressive.
Baseball guys playing all these cards.
That's it, man. That's it. And a little rummy.
Yeah, yeah.
Little
Rummy.
rummy is nice.
Yeah,
I mean, dude, we would sit there for a couple hours during a rain delay and just sit there and literally play cards, or even get there early and play some cards before the game. It's relaxing. Takes
yeah,
your
yeah.
mind off things.
Definitely.
Anyway, not every path is different. What does that mean? What does that mean?
Yeah, yeah. Not every for me and a lot of these players on here, especially live, Facebook, YouTube. I think that I wanted to get across to them that, there's not just one way to get to your goal, especially the major leagues. If we're talking about the major leagues, there's not just one way to get there. Um, and I want to stress to a lot of young players that just because so and so was a first round pick and they have a great opportunity doesn't mean that your opportunity is not there. So for high schoolers and college guys, I want you to continue to research and find out, hey, how do I get into these certain showcases? Maybe some ones that don't cost as much money, because everybody, financially is different too. So say you don't have the money for that, find out how you can be sponsored on a showcase, how you can figure out how you can get on a team that may sponsor you,
Mhm.
how you may be able to send out your clips to certain teams and certain colleges and other instructors that can help you out with that stuff. So I don't want players to feel discouraged if they can't do some of the same things that they see their friends doing or their peers doing or other people able to do. For me personally, I had the opportunity to, you know, I was a junior. I hadn't signed to go anywhere. Junior in high school, I hadn't signed to go anywhere. So I just continued to email these teams and send letters to these teams, and even ones that I knew I was going to get turned down. And the reason being because I got better at communicating with coaches and
Mhm.
communicating with other instructors and finding out, okay, not only am I emailing, talking to these coaches, maybe they don't want me, but I find out what I need to get better at. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
these coaches have seen me play. What do I need to get better at? And then take that opportunity to say, okay, what league is going to help me the best to get to where I need to be? There's a million leagues out here. So I don't want to hear any complaints about, oh, I couldn't get into so and so league. Hey,
Right.
that doesn't mean you can't get to where you need to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Try to get into the next league. And for me, I played in Colombia, I played in Dominican, I played in Mexico. So all these different places are routes to get to where you need to go. I played in Korea. So there's a lot of different routes, and not only are there different routes, there's a lot of ways to get paid as a professional
Mm-hmm.
player, even before you get to the major leagues. So I just want to stress to players that there's so many different routes to get to where
Yeah.
you want to be today.
And I was just thinking, I was thinking for me, like I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player growing up, and the route that I went, like people think that it's just about the money, right? Or then they think about it's one of two things, right? It's one of two things. From it's all about the money to, oh, it's just a game, they should have fun, and there's really no in between. Like that's the one thing that I think there's a disconnect with professional athletes and non-professional athletes, is that you don't just wake up out of bed and go to the field for an hour and hit, and then all of a sudden you're good to go to play Major League Baseball, or you shoot around for a couple hours and you're playing on an NBA court, or you suit up and you go make some tackles and you're playing NFL. Like it's not
Right.
like that. It's
Yeah.
it's not like that. We all take different paths, and I think each one of us has the same goal. I think the glitz and the glamour might be a little bit different, but I think everybody that in the professional sports arena, everyone has the same goal or the same drive, and that drive is that they love the game, because there's no way that you can't love your sport and put in the time that it takes to get to that highest level. So I want to point out we're at the end of the month, we're doing our professional baseball tryout with the Atlantic League, August 24th to 27th in Vieira, Florida, and got an email from a dude that, I mean, it just seems like it seems like all the circumstances are against him. It's going to take him some extra money to get here, like different things that are going on. And like he wasn't hesitating. He wasn't batting an eye. He wasn't losing sleep over nothing. That it's probably going to cost him more money in travel and stuff like that for what he's got to do, and plus try out whatever, than he's even going to get paid for that, first full season if he does sign a contract.
Right.
Saying
Right.
that because it's not just about the money. It's not just about, playing the game or whatever. It's about the passion and the desire for wanting to achieve that goal. Sometimes, you'll look at someone and say, oh, they only made this amount of money. Like, and you look at guys in independent ball, you played independent ball, you know that there's zero money there. Like some of the lower level leagues, like some of them aren't even really paying like 50 to $100 a week. Right. And these
Yeah.
guys,
I
it's
actually never played independent ball, so I don't want you to misquote.
no, but isn't international like independent ball, I guess you could say?
No, no, not. It was, well, I played in the winter league, so it wasn't like an
Gotcha.
independent.
My bad. Okay,
No,
I
you're
gotcha.
good.
But I just think, the point that I'm trying to make is that just because you're not making a bunch of money, and just because somebody else is making a bunch of money, just because XYZ player is, and I'm talking to a lot of the kids on Instagram right now too, just because this player is getting all the accolades and this player is doing this and you're not, like that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't
Right.
make him a better player than you. That doesn't make you a worse player than him.
Right.
What Xavier is saying is that there's not one way to get to the big leagues. There's not one way to be successful. There's not one way to, if I'm driving, I'm getting ready to go to Tennessee for a trip. Like there's multiple roads that we could take to get to Tennessee. There's multiple
Absolutely.
interstates and highways. We could take probably 10, 12, 20 different paths to get to where we're going in Tennessee. And we're all going to get there. One might be full of construction. One might be off the main road, and so you got to off-road it a little bit. It's not very, there's not gas stations around, and so whatever. Like, you're going to go through some circumstances and some situations. Your path might be different. I think the way that, or the reason why people are successful, even though their paths aren't different, is because they don't look at the circumstances that they're faced with and let those circumstances bring them down. I think, that really ties into our first topic of, the changing circumstances, is that when you are on your path to wherever it is that you're going, you have to learn how to react to those circumstances, react to those situations, react to where that path is taking you, and be the best person that you can be along that path. Because I think that you're 100% right. Like, your life that you've lived up to this point, how old are you? 34, 33?
I'm 32.
32. Dang, bro. Plus with that cut, the fade, all that stuff, man, looking like you're 27, right back in your prime, man. Somebody sign this guy. But the path that you've lived growing up has been totally different than the path that I've lived growing up. But look where we're at. We're both on the same screen, preaching the same message to the same audience, right? So our paths were completely different, but because we stayed focused on the goal that we had, I'm sure you faced a lot of trials and tribulations that I would not even comprehend. And I've faced trials and circumstances that you probably would not even comprehend. Two totally, completely different worlds, two completely different set of circumstances, but yet here we are. And I think what it boils down to is who you are as a person and how you react to those circumstances, and keeping your head down, keeping on that path. When you're on your path, or I'm on my path, you still have to make sure you're taking pit stops, make sure that you're getting the oil change, making sure that you're, stopping for gas, stopping for food. Like, you have to pay attention to what's going on. And I think, everything that we've talked about on this show every week, like it just, we always go back, like at the end of the show every week, we always go back and say, oh, we talked about this, we talked about that. Like, these two things that we're talking about today, changing circumstances and how you're adapting to that, and then understanding that not everybody's path is the same. Every path is different. Like, how's your preparation? How's your planning? How's your work ethic? How is your confidence? How is your preparation? How is, all the things that you've been working on, are they enabling you to overcome the change in circumstance? Are they enabling you to stay on that path that looks different? Like, oh my gosh, this guy has 27,000 followers and I can't even get any likes. Like, are you going to sit there and complain about that? Or are you going to figure out what he's doing to get those followers? Are you figuring out what he's doing to get all these, this engagement and stuff like that? Like, you have to take that information. You have to, man, I just feel like, and I'm looking at some of these Instagram comments here. Where is this one? Our games this past Sunday were pushed back 4 hours and we all adapted and had a great time playing. My man, X, love what you're doing, brother. You guys, this is very positive. You guys are doing a great, like, this is good shit. Like, what's up, boys? Like, this is it, man. Like, we're not talking any knowledge drop here. This is just us kind of just talking and going back and forth on our experiences. I'm doing a little bit more talking today, but like, it is what it is. I mean, like, I don't know, man. I feel like I texted you last night and I was like, hey, what's the topic for tomorrow? When you said not everybody's path is the same or every path is different, I had already picked changing circumstances. And I'm like, dude, like we're on the same wavelength with this. So I just think
perfectly.
That's it, man. I think just to circle back to the beginning. And
and I want to mention something real quick too, is like, even if like money is your motivation or whatever, because everybody's motivation is different, right? So even if it is the glitz and glamour or it's the money, whatever, like MLB isn't the only league that has money and pays people really well, So that's why I kind of mentioned these leagues like Mexico, Dominican, Venezuela, even though Venezuela maybe not a good country to go to right now. You got Taiwan, Japan, Korea. These leagues all pay very well, especially to American players. So if there's an outlet to get to one of these and then get to the major leagues, which a lot of people are doing now, be prepared for that. You talked about preparation. There's not just one way to get to the big leagues. There's multiple avenues. So that's what I just wanted to touch on too.
You know what sticks out to me when you say that is I see that a lot of the people that would shun going and playing overseas or playing independent ball, it's because they can only see Major League Baseball as the true professional baseball. Like that's the standard. And it is. I mean, it's the most prominent professional baseball league on the globe, right? But it's not the only professional baseball league. They have the most money, they're able to do the most things, right? But
Right.
but to me, someone that's going to go overseas, someone that's going to play independent ball, someone that's going to make, $565 a month to, play professional baseball in some, low level league, that's the person that I can mess with because they're playing in circumstances that really aren't attractive to people. Like
Right.
to the general person, like, I don't want to go play in front of 400 people. Well, guess what? Look at Major League Baseball. They ain't playing in front of anybody right now. 3 years ago, when 2 years last year, or when I was playing independent ball, and there's 600 people in the stands, or we get 1,000 on a good night, or then on a Thursday night or a Tuesday night, we'd be home and there'd be 67 people in the stands, and people say, oh, that's not professional baseball. Look where we're at right now. A change
Right.
in circumstances. You got nobody watching the games live in Major League Baseball. You got
Yeah.
nobody watching the games live in NBA. Now what? You got guys out there that are playing their butts off, that are playing because they love to play the game, and they're not worried about what the circumstances are. Do you think that they want to be playing in front of fans? Absolutely. Would you want to play in front of fans? Absolutely. It's a different
Yeah.
environment. But are they complaining about it? No, they're putting in the work. They're doing what they got to do. Shortened season. Like when they came out and said, "Oh, we're going to do, a 60-game season for Major League Baseball," I'm thinking like that's not even half the schedule. But what it is, it's a schedule. It's making
Yeah.
something happen. We're faced with a tough situation. Just like 1994, they had the strike. That would have been the year for the Expos. Everybody thought they were going to be good, blah, 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 and it didn't happen, right? They missed that
Right.
opportunity. It is what it is. But like at least there is an opportunity. At least there is a situation where you're able to watch guys play. You're able to reach a fulfillment for those 750 go. Well, probably more now because they got 30-man roster. But for those 800 plus guys, like they've been working a long time to get to this level. Even the guys that have been playing for 10 years, like this is what they do every day. So I think that
Yeah,
man,
all those guys' livelihood is on the line too. So you're going to see the best. You're going to see, no matter what, how many games it is, they're going to be performing at their best level.
so what advice do you have for the rest of the summer? Right, summer's tying down, slowing down. Talking about opening schools, I'm not getting into any of that. I'm just gonna go with what's going on, and whatever happens, happens, and we react to that. But what's some advice that you got for guys that are possibly going back to school, virtual school, homeschool, and then they gotta go through another fall of this kind of limited training?
Yeah. I think that's first and foremost, that's tough. That's tough to navigate. You're in a situation that you haven't been in before. But I think we touched on it a little bit before. Like just find creative ways to keep yourself moving and motivated and getting better. This is the time when the creative ones are going to stick out more than the other ones. The ones that are really willing to find a way to just even if they have to stay at the same level,
Mm-hmm.
instead of getting worse. Like that's going to be a separating factor right now. So continue to be creative, continue to research ways to get better. We've talked about YouTube a lot, and we've talked about platforms like Prospect Dugout, platforms like Turn 2. You're going to find these platforms popping up more and more now, especially because of virtual opportunities. And continue to do your research.
Mm-hmm.
There's opportunities like showcases and camps that you're going to be able to have opportunities to go to, and these are going to be important to take advantage of. So continue to be creative. Continue to find out. I think I mentioned this too last time. Is like continue to find out what your weaknesses are.
Mm-hmm.
Go over what you did last season. Look at your stats. Look at the video. Dissect it. For me, I found out that my best chance and opportunity to get to the big leagues happened after a full year of me sitting down and looking at all my video from previous years and saying, okay, this is where I got to take a cold hard look in the mirror and figure out what I am struggling at. everybody else can tell me, but if I don't find out for myself and really see it visually and then be able to make the adjustment mentally, then it's not going to happen. So after I was able to do that, I sat down a whole off season, went over all my video, looked at, okay, what are you struggling with and how can we fix it? Because the only way to consciously make an adjustment is for you to visually see it and for you to visually and mentally have the opportunity to change something. So for me, and when I did that, I made the leap to go from the minor leagues to the big leagues. And I constantly tell people, especially young athletes, find out what your weaknesses are, even the ones that you don't even know about, and just get better at those, because you know what your strengths are. You're going to continue to work on those, but the weaknesses are where you separate yourself. And that's what we're here about, is the X factor, separating yourself, finding a way. So
Addison Barrett official says you guys are doing a great job on spreading positivity, and he said that you did a good job on ESPN this morning. Good job, X.
Yeah, huge, man. Appreciate you guys. Continue to, if you're up at 6:30, that's 5 to 6:30 ish, 7 o'clock. I'll be on there talking KBO, talking baseball in general. So
what channel is that on?
ESPN, yeah, or ESPN2 sometimes.
Nice, dude. So let's wrap up here. It's been a good episode. I just wanted to touch on one thing that you were just talking about going into the fall. I would suggest to everybody that's watching, especially parents, like, you essentially get a do-over, right? Because we're not going back to normal in the fall. Everything's kind of continuing and things are shutting down a little bit again. Rules and regulations are tightening. You almost have a do-over to what you missed out on in the summer. So what I mean by a do-over, I mean, start filming your batting practice sessions, start filming your weightlifting, start filming your defensive work, your pitching work, start filming your local games, and start uploading that content. You want to get tons of followers like Joey Baseball on Instagram, like Nazir Moulay, like Blaze Jordan, like Gavin Turley, like these dudes, like Manuel Beltre, like they aren't posting once a week or once every 2 weeks and have a private profile. They're constantly posting. They're constantly putting their name out there. So that's my advice to you going into the fall. Get your phone out, start recording, start uploading. We've got a huge update with the Prospect Dugout app coming. I'm super excited for this. Nice. Complete redesign of the user experience, of the user interface, make it a whole lot better. I mean, ranking systems, points, skills leaders, how you match up against a dude in California, Florida. Like, you're going to need to record video. You're going to need to record your times. You cannot rely on someone else to do anything for you. You can't rely on someone else to think for you. You can't rely on someone else to take action for you. You can't rely on someone else to work out for you. You can't rely on someone else to help you through a situation. You can't rely on anybody else for anything. Right. Other than to give you a perspective outside of your own perspective. That's it. That's all you can rely on someone else to do, because really every piece of information that you take in is not really, it's not real. It's just what other people see about you. So it's your job to take in that information and make adjustments. If someone says that you're acting like this, or someone says you're doing this all the time, that's what they see. But what is the root cause of that? And so I think for us going into the fall is to go back to February or March. The beginning of March is when everything started to be like, okay, crap, everything's shutting down. Go back to then and figure out what you did wrong, or what I mean did wrong, what you didn't do from March until now, and say, okay, starting today, all the things that I didn't do up until the end of the year, I'm going to start doing them. I'm going to put together a workout routine. I'm going to put together a throwing program. And here's the one thing that I think about every time.
To be perfect. Right?
Exactly. That's the one thing that I was just gonna say. The one thing that I think about every time we're on the show and someone says something on Instagram or whatever about a workout or this throwing program or whatever, you cannot come here looking for answers. You can't go to another show, another video looking for all of the answers. You're coming here looking for the content that we're bringing you. We're bringing you in-depth information. We're bringing you a perspective that comes from experience. We're bringing you a perspective that comes from X amount of years doing this, X amount of years doing this, and we're here together. We've obviously done enough things in our lives to take us to the same point, right? So we have a unique perspective. but don't rely on just that one video. Don't rely on that one source. Get on Google, literally get on Google and find every piece of information you can find about a throwing program, workout program. Find reputable people that Major League Baseball players are working with, training with, guys that, are training up and coming D1 athletes. That's who I found when I was just coming out of college, getting into professional baseball, was Joe DeFranco up in New Jersey. He was training, D1 superstar football players that were becoming, first round picks, MLB players. All of a sudden, my strength went through the roof. I started hitting the ball harder. I started running faster, being more consistent with less injuries and things like that. It wasn't from just that one thing, is because I was constantly searching and trying to find something. So find something that works for you, and then find something else and something else and something else, and use the next 6 months, 5 months that are left in 2020 and have a do-over for yourself, and really set yourself on a schedule that says, you know what, I'm going to take in the information just as that. I'm going to take it in as information, so that way I can use that information to get better. Any final thoughts?
No, man, just like you said, grab everywhere. Go one place, grab something. Go another place, grab something. And like you said, the social media is huge now, especially, and especially if you're going to be using an app like a Prospect Dugout, which is really beneficial for you. Get the content, get the video of yourself. This stuff is so important nowadays, and it's changing the game, So this stuff is huge, and I'm glad we have a platform like Prospect Dugout that provides something like this. These athletes are really lucky, and I'm glad that we can be able to have this X factor every week and allow these young athletes to kind of get inside the mind and get inside the insights of what's going on, and navigating this baseball lifestyle.
That's it, man. It's the X factor. That's what it's all about. I know you got to run. You got another, like, you're adapting, bro. You're making the most of your day. You're not sitting around doing nothing. You got to call it too. Doing business, man. 47 minutes live with Xavier Scruggs here on the X Factor on the Prospect Dugout Network. I'm your host, Joel Hartman. We had a blast. We'll be back next week, I think Thursday, because Tuesday I'll still be in Tennessee and I can't do it remotely. But we'll be back next Thursday if you want to tune in. Xavier, man, it's always a blast hanging out with you. It's always a blast. Nice haircut.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you guys for joining us. Make sure to follow.
We got a couple of comments. I want to shout out my boy, my boy from SD. What's up, Mr. Wright? Always holding it down. I appreciate you showing love. And we also got Chris Lane, the chaplain of the Miami Marlins. What's going on, Chris? So we got people showing up, showing love. So
he's got some downtime right now. He's adapting. He's
or he might be very busy.
That's true. That's actually pretty true. So anyway, my man Xavier Scruggs, 48 minutes he's got to run, but thank you so much for joining us here on the Prospect Dugout Network. Oh, that's what I was going to say. xoathletes.com. Yes, if you want to find out anything more about Xavier, what he's got going on, prospectdugout.com for us. Instagram, your Instagram is at Xavier_Scruggs, SCRUGGS. And you can find us on Instagram and any other social at Prospect Dugout. It's always a blast being on here live. We'll see you again next week. See you, buddy.
Peace.